Anyway, what I wanted to do was to turn something out of bone or antler. So I had a piece of antler, cut it in half. I'm surprised that the two things are so different. One's dark, one's light, but they came out of the same piece of antler. This is out of a, what part of the giraffe is this from, Anthony? The tibia of a giraffe. And it's really neat stuff to work with, so that's what I did.
Does it smell?
Close out the silent auction.
Not really.
Oh, yeah.
No.
The antler doesn't smell when you turn it?
No, it really didn't smell very much. I had a big vacuum system behind it, though, because I didn't want any of the dust coming out. So maybe it took some of the smell away. But and I had to fill the antler with epoxy because it was so porous. But it came out fine.
Sarah, demo coming up in it's a Sunday, Monday. A Sunday demo on Monday, hands-on.
When is that
in
again?
August,
Oh,
like the 18th.
it's going to be here before we know it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, real quickly, while we're switching challenge participants, silent auction items. If you have the high price on the items back here, that's yours. See Kevin, he'll be happy to take your money. And we are going to close the silent art auction, excuse me. And phone number 2008 is a proud winner of a winged bowl made from big leaf maple burl. So congratulations. Okay, challenge. Who's next? Well, not everybody go at once. I mean, I'll go. Okay, you can follow me. Okay, this is something, this goes way back to like 7th grade, okay? I thought it'd be kind of cool to make like a billy club, and so I thought, what am I going to do with it, you know? Anyway, if you recall this spring, it was really pretty wet. I helped my sister and brother-in-law farm in Fredonia, Kansas, and it was a challenge to get into the field, you know, especially when you're trying to get wheat out here. And anyway, if you know anything about grain trucks, okay, dually, tandem wheels on the back, you want to make sure that all the tires are aired up, because once you get into a soft field and everything, you know, it sinks down. And with the dual tandem, you know, it floats across. Anyway, if that inside tire is flat, you sink down. Don't ask me how I know that. But something like this, if you had this in the cab, you can go and hit the tires, and you could hear if it's up or not. So this is a tire thumper. I wanted to make sure we got the proper resonance, so I put a little some in the end of it, so it's a lot heavier here. But that's it.
I thought you always wanted to be an Irish cop in New York.
Yeah. No, but I think it'll work fine. This is going to go in the cab of the big grain truck.
All right.
Okay, next.
Well, my challenge for this night was what was to do with the last little tiny piece of burl that I had. So I thought, well, I'll maybe make some points with the misses. So I polished it up real well, and then in the meantime thought, well, I ought to have a holder. So there's some number 4 electric wire on the shelf. It's about 18 inches long. It's got about 20 strands in it. So I just took a piece of electric wire and rolled it up. The challenge was drilling a 40 thousandths hole to put the little wires through that held it. But I was real pleased with the last remnant of my burl, so that's the story. And this was just another piece of recent, got some honey locust. It was about 4 foot in diameter. Now I'm making a bowl, but it ain't gonna be 4 foot. And so this one I was a cast. I used a little bit of plastic clay and took my pocket knife and just scored out the center of it, and then cast this with the epoxy with that blue pearl color. in it, and then polish it up and put a couple of doodads for Anthony, and that's my story. So. And she gets it back.
All right.
This was the first thing that I had tried in a deep hollowing, about 6 inches deep, and it's also, just to make it a little more difficult, I had to match the taper of the insert. I used a hook tool that I'd had for several years and never used. It's came pretty good. It vibrates a lot at 6 inches overhang situation, but I got the taper okay, and then went on down and tapered the outside to match it's got a stainless steel insert for a travel mug. And I started, instead of staving it, I started with a solid block or multi-block that was 3.5 inches square and 6 inches tall. And now it's 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. So lots of dust. But it was the first thing I'd ever deep hollowed. And then just used tongue oil and the BO buffing system. Okay.
So does the coffee taste better now?
Yep. No, the tea does.
I had seen these I think on Pinterest. I don't know if I saw them in an AAW magazine, but it was something that I'd wanted to try and just never had. They're little scoops that I turned the scoop part of it, or this part, in between centers like that, and I had some pieces that had a flat side to them. They were actually triangular in shape, so I would use that flat side as where I wanted this face. But once you turned them in between centers, then you put them in the chuck so that in between the chuck jaws, thank you, is where your handle would end up setting, and it would squeeze down on it. And it worked out good. It went fast. I did realize that the more round it is, the less oblong it looks like on the hole. The hole turns in there more smoothly. The circle turns in more smoothly if you've really got a round shape. But quick and easy. This one I tried with I had a little leftover chunks of some elm burl that I really like, and so I was trying to get the stem on it, and it broke, and I decided, well, okay, I can just make a new stem. So it's 2 pieces of wood, but it was fun little, take an hour to do, if that. I mean, I could probably do them faster now, but they were fun. And I think if you had measuring spoons and did a little testing and then sanding off or turning away, you could actually make these so that they were tablespoon, teaspoon, half teaspoon, that kind of size, if you wanted. Anyway.
So I've taken part in we used to make pins and send them to Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I've done a lot of that, but all I've ever done is turn them. And so then I went and out to the School for the Blind and helped people turn them and help people put them together. But I have never purchased a pin kit and turned it. However, when I did first see pin kits, I thought, you know, I'm going to make a pin. And I'm going to make it out of ivory, and it's going to be a fountain pen. And so that's what I finally did. This is woolly mammoth ivory, and the dark part is the bark. It's like the enamel on the tooth. And I didn't use all of the parts because I wanted to see the ivory more than I wanted to see that whatever that metal is. And so it was kind of fun. I had a lot of because I didn't follow the rules right. I had a number of difficulties, such as at one point when I was almost done, I glued the cap on. which is a problem. But I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting. I'm going to go down to what do you call it, Crown Center, and see if they can sell me other parts to make high quality fountain pens. And I think it'll be a fun idea. We'll see how it works.
Cool. Well, what you can do is just go buy a $500 Mont Blanc pen and throw away
the rest of it, right?
Cool.
Well, Kansas City has about 4 or 5 iconic images, and this happens to be one of them. I've always wanted to turn the shuttlecock there at the Nelson. And when we were kids playing badminton, it was called a birdie, and I think my mom made sure that we called it a birdie. She didn't want us calling it that other name. But anyway, the only way I was able to do this was back in 2005. I ended up buying the Escalon Chuck, which is the number 2. He sold 6 of them at Craft Supplies, and then they totally took that off the market, and he went through version 3, and he now sells version 4. So the good thing is I have the version 2, which allows me to mount my piece on a faceplate. So when you mount it on the faceplate like this, then I'm able to then turn it so that I'm able to turn this part of it and then reset my piece. And then the only other way I was able to eliminate some excess wood here is I had to slope this a little bit. And that allowed me to turn this all on multi-axis, one piece of wood, which is silver maple. And then I finished it with milk paint. The only thing I couldn't figure out how to do was to really turn the bottom side of this piece. And I think I've got a vacuum chuck big enough or deep enough that will allow me to put my piece inside and support it here, and then I'd be able to finish the bottom. So on my next one, I'm going to try that.
Only a month late, but I did it with the eggshells and making a wall button and all that. And I didn't enjoy it or anything else.
Well, I'm a 3-month newbie and not been in woodworking or wood turning or anything like that for years. And a friend of mine was one of those kind of guys that could go out and build a duck blind, or he could a tree stand for deer, or he could build a deck, or he could build a really ornate jewelry box to hang on the wall for jewelry and all that kind of stuff. So wasn't anything he could do, but he's having to retire from everything. And I was out at my barn, and he had all of his equipment. He had everything you could possibly use in wood. And he said, well, I got to get rid of all this wood and the machinery. And so he picked up 3 or 4 pieces of plywood that were 1.5 inches thick by 1 by 2s. A lot of weight there. And he picked it up and he went over to the bandsaw and he started getting ready to put it on. I said, hold it. What are you doing with that? And he said, well, I got to cut this up so I can handle it. And, no, I'll take care of that for you. Don't worry about that. So I had 5 pieces of this plywood. So what do you do with plywood except try and make a bowl out of it? Now this is my second attempt at making plywood bowls. First one I gave to my brother in California, and they were really excited about it. So in the center is this 1.5-inch plywood right here. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. And there's poplar on the top and bottom of that, and walnut on the top and bottom of the poplar. And it took a lot of sanding because you're dealing with ingrains in this plywood, and it makes it pretty tough. But we were able to finally get through it. And so I decided, well, I'm going to try doing a segment. So I did the end of the segment and glued that on there. And so real happy with it. This is going to go to my son. So thank you.
Well, there's a lot of things that I haven't made, but I've been working on beads and coves. So doing the beads, I decided to make a snowman. And then on Saturday, I came up and Jack helped me make a sphere. That's good. You get my picture. Not good. So anyway, it's not perfect, but it's a start. And then I just made a little stand to put it on.
Kevin Neely. These are awesome. If you don't have one of these, you should buy one. Anyway, okay. We need an independent third party who can pick out a winner. And Dorothy, we're going to see if you can read the last 3 numbers, if you would, please. Oh, well then, pick the winner. 881. Who's got 881? There you go. How about that? Now this is, you can make that bowl with this tool. Maybe not, but it'd take a while. Congratulations, John. All you need to do is make a handle for that, and then keep that flat, of course, and Kevin can show you how to sharpen it. It's real easy. That is a slick tool. Okay, we're going to move right into show and tell, and it looks like we've had the wall button theme. I'm going to finish that. Last month, I did my wall buttons, and I promptly came to the meeting, and I left them on my bench in my shop. So anyway, here's what I did. The day I was making these, see overhead or anyway, the day I was making these, I roughed them out and everything. I thought, okay. I went inside to get some eggs, and we were out of eggs. So I thought, what am I going to do here? So I decided to bywater them, and this is what I came up with. Actually, I different finishes, different size beads, and different inks and so forth, and I learned an awful lot. This was going to be gorgeous. This was a really neat piece of walnut, and I used the same inks on these, and then I put Watco on it, and I washed everything out. So that's, This one I thought actually could be doubled as a lid for a bowl, button bowl. So I put this in the back here. But anyway, that's what they are. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I got them made. Next.
I got smitten by our demonstration and came up with an idea in my head, and it's starting to work out. But I noticed the one thing he didn't say was that Smooth On that you can buy out on Olathe. He went over everything else, and I now know why, because you can't get rid of the bubbles. But since I happen to put minions in here, it looks like they're breathing underwater. And these are the Ruth Niles. This is the whiskey stopper, and that's the mysterious bottle opener. And this is one of her wine units. And they're all kitchen grade stainless steel. They're really nice, and even if they don't use them, they can stand up by themselves. I like them, but now I know why I'm going to go to Alamite or Total Boat.
How long are those air tanks good for?
I don't know. But this is the one that has a pot life of 5 hours. And then the casting, you don't use a pot. I found out why, because the pot will blow right through. Because it's 24 hours cure time on this. And it's supposed to make the bubbles get smaller and smaller. And the biggest thing it made is these little minions. It made them look like they're 5 feet wide. But this was my original idea after the demonstration we had here. And I'm actually kind of happy with them. So, because I know a bunch of drunks. So I'm making early Christmas presents.
Well, this is also something I copied off people. I watched people making wands, and so I decided I was going to make one too. And this is an ever-ready Swiss Army utility wand. I think it's made out of 11 pieces. And so there's this place over in England, I don't know if you guys know about it, called Diagon Alley, and the Ever-Ready company has a shop front there. And so I've never been there, but I got a buddy who does. And so through him, I ordered some batteries, some magical batteries, and they sent them over to me by Seagull, because the owls won't fly that far. And so the little batteries, I got 5 of them, and they each do something different. I'm not quite certain what they all are, but this is a little mushroom, and I don't know what that one is. But this one's for electricity, and this one makes plants grow, and that one shoots fire. So they go inside there when you're not using them. I haven't done it yet, but there has to be some kind of a little child-proof thingy on the end of this so that little kids can't get away with it. And it screws in the end here, and then it's just supposed to work with that kind of magic there. And I used 20 TPI threads for all of it. Pink ivory. This is also the what do you call it? Well, you don't need to see it all apart. Made this out of the giraffe bone, and it was kind of fun. And so just kind of to make certain everybody knew that it was really a Swiss Army wand. It's got a toothpick in it.
Let me guess, you also turned the toothpick.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Wow. Okay. We got some other very interesting show and tell items.
See the linear line.
Hey, where's Ken?
There's Ken. He didn't finish the top of it. Look, it's all rough.
Well, this piece of ash, my neighbor next door lost a 50-foot ash tree thanks to the bugs, and it was so big at the base you couldn't reach around it. Lost a lot of good shade. So unfortunately, the guy that was cutting it up didn't cut it up for wood turning, so the pieces weren't exactly the way I would have liked them. But anyway, I got a couple of them, threw them over the fence, and this is one of them. And when I cut into it and cut it in half, it was kind of strange because on either side there were two different strips of colored wood. It's like, and there was bark between them. It's like two trunks had grown together. And so I was a little concerned about the bark, but it turned away. It didn't go all the way through, and it's got a little feather in the bottom. So I guess it's a natural edge, and anyway, that's what I got.
There we go. So Mike one day brought in a piece of locust and said, "Hey, do you want to turn this?" And so he turned me loose with it, and this is what I came up with. And I finished it with just a shellac. So.
How'd you fill that hole? What is that? Epoxy or? Oh, I thought it was really clear.
It's a real hole.
It's a hole.
Real hole. Wow.
This is an example of what happens when things go wrong. For those of you that are new to wood turning, luckily I haven't had a disaster quite as bad as this one, but it would have been a beautiful bowl. It was sanded. It was ready to turn around and take the tenon off the back. My vacuum chuck died at the wrong time is the short story of it. One piece went up and went through the ceiling, or went into the ceiling. The second piece went across the room and took out this bowl. And then the third piece, a chest freezer, put a dent in it about a ½ an inch. So it was a wake-up call. So those of you that are new to turning, it can happen even when you're really careful.
What happened to your vacuum chuck? What happened?
I had it plugged in to the same circuit as a window unit air conditioner, which would have been fine, except I had it into one of those power strips, and it had a 10 amp deal on it. And when it went off, I was just in the process of sliding the tailstock back and pulling the chuck off to put the deal back on, and I heard it go off, and I slid the tailstock over and pushed up to it and gave it a turn, and so everything was fine. So rather than go and reset the breaker, I decided to just jam chuck it since it was centered and on there. And so I started taking the tenon off of it, but in all that commotion I hadn't locked down the tailstock. And so I started turning it, and it gave me about a ½ a second notice before it blew up, but it was pretty spectacular. So.
Several people have urged me for a long time, why don't I bring something? So I brought a couple of bowls I've turned. I was really pleased with this one. It's a piece of red oak, which I normally dislike turning, but for whatever reason, this piece turned nice. And I cut the tree 2 years ago, and then I set the pieces on top of the stump in a timber, hoping they would spalt, and the sapwood spalted in 3 weeks. But it took 2 years for water to leak in and do some nice spalting on the heartwood. So I was pretty pleased with the way it looks. And this was just a piece of fairly rotten hackberry that it wanted to catch real bad, so I soaked it with sanding sealer, and then it seemed to turn fine. And both are just finished with boiled linseed oil. This didn't look very good till the linseed oil hit it. Then I got lots of blacks and browns, so I was pretty pleased how it turned out. So I finally brought something.
No, there's 3 more parts to this, but we're going to deal with this one. I'm glad I can't carry them all.
You got that old ugly wood again?
I'm sorry?
You brought a piece of that old ugly wood?
Yeah. Okay. April 26th. My doorbell rings. You heard the story. Guy says, "You want to look at my truck?" And I said, "Sure." So I go in the truck, and he has this 85-pound barrel. Well, here it is, finished. So the challenge that I undertook with this was, because of this epoxy filling, I really wanted to do something that preserved the sunken area of the burl so that you could see what the burl was. And of course, at that moment, I hadn't really thought about the fact that, well, when you do that, it's going to have an effect on your thickness, because when you start to turn away the inside, you're going to be giving up the burl that you really would like to see, right? So as you turn, you start to see plastic, the epoxy, and that's when you say, yeah, that wall thickness is just about right, you know. So the trick is to pour this stuff and how to make a mold. Now, I've got another project that we've talked about. It's a maple burl, and we wanted to do the same thing, but it has its own cast mold, and it still isn't poured. So how this was approached was to get some 2-inch wide aluminum tape and about baling wire, for lack of a better term, and to bend the wire across the circumference of the bowl, so that when you put the tape on it, you could essentially get about a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch of space between the edges of the tape and the wood, and then basically pour up in sections the epoxy. And as you build your mold with the aluminum on the outside, the only trick is to get it to stick to each other and not stick to the wood, and you'll find that it'll leak on the floor, and you have to use those shavings you don't know what else to do with to mop it up. And so then at the end of it, it turned off, I think, reasonably well. And I did get, what I set out to do was to preserve what the burl looked like before we turned it into finished wood. And this is a big leaf maple burl, according to all the literature I can find. And they typically are more common out in Oregon and Washington than they are here. So why it's growing in Missouri, I don't know. But that's the story. So I'll probably never get another one, but this is my big bowl project.
It's a nice week for bowls. This is just a piece of sycamore. It was a crotch piece, so I believe the spalting kind of followed the feather grain a little bit in it. And this was the smaller piece. The larger piece, I wasn't near as pleased. I tried to do a natural edge, and it's pretty weird. But I enjoyed the way this one turned out. I think I just put walnut oil, I believe is how I finished this, and it does have a couple of small cracks that I didn't try to fill or anything because I didn't want the shininess of the CA glue or something to take away from it. So I could probably stand to put another coat of walnut oil and let it soak in there, but I was pleased with the way the bowl turned out, the thickness and the solidness that it feels.
Any other ShowNTell items? Okay. We're 2 minutes late. Anyway, The challenge for next month is, can anyone guess what the challenge is? There you go. Make a pen for the Irish Fest. Okay.
Or a platter.
Well, we're not going there. We're working on pens. Okay. Maybe August we'll do a platter. But yeah, pens. Either find a stick in the yard, or cut up a piece of, or buy a pen kit. So anyway, yeah, that's what the challenge is for next month. Oh, that's right. I need to mention, we have got a professional international turner coming here next month. Ellie Avicera. Those of you who know, Ellie Avicera is going to be here next month. So take a look on our website for more information about. Ellie does everything, so I can't remember what we decided to have him do, but he's going to have a Saturday demonstration, Sunday demonstration.
Monday hands-on.
That's right.
It's different because it is religion. He won't do a Saturday, so we're doing Sunday and then Monday.
Okay. Right? Okay. Effie knows. Okay. So look for more information on that, and consult the website if you have any questions, or give a board member a call, whatever. But thank you so much. Hope you got something out of the meeting tonight and enjoyed it, and we'll do it again next month. Great. You got a couple pens?
Baseball bats.
Yeah, and the hickory would be good for that. Yeah.
Used to go to the Royal Stadium and used to give them to you. Where did you get these at?
I'll go home with Howard.
Oh, just
Oh, okay.
Closer. Save it. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Anywhere.
Staples.
Okay, just regular bits.
No deck.
Okay, and you want these?
Not Wright Brothers.
Yeah, and you want these for the Irish Fest?
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
So yeah, you got okay. Like I say, they didn't have any blue ones, and so that's why I just got black. But I was gonna.
It's hard to find colors.
Well, I mean, they got so many of them. It's like I thought, oh well.
No, this is Smooth On 690 does not use pressure pot. It's 5 hours worth of pot time before it starts to even harden up, and it's not as affected by humidity.
Well, that's
Alumite
good.
And the rest of them are. So you got like if you do wood, wood down here on these, you take that and either put it in the microwave or and cook it a little bit.
Oh.
Father, sins of the Son, you really had a plan when you cursed every man with everything he had to have but one, a bullet that could kill the devil's tongue. They say what goes in is bad enough, but what comes out is death. Let's hunt it down and kill it, for it takes another breath. It'll sow the seeds of darkness, sow the seeds of doubt, and rock through the never getting out. If you had a chance to take it back, you'd lay your money down, with a fighting chance to offer up forgiveness by the pound. We've all been down that street before and up that creek as well, just running from what we can never tell. So help me God to kill the devil's tongue, the sins of the Father, the sins of the Son, all the darkness of our heart. So help me, God, to kill the devil's tongue, the sins of the Father, the sins of the Son.